Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you things not to do if you want to get pregnant. I've talked about before and I made a video about the things you should do if you want to get pregnant naturally fast, and I guess this is the other side of the coin. So these are the things that you should try to avoid doing if you want to get pregnant. Now, just a disclaimer off the top, obviously I am not a doctor. If you have any questions or concerns about your own fertility, definitely consult your physician or OB. Also, even though these are the things that for the most part generally work in prohibiting pregnancy, I wouldn't say that these are things that you could do to 100% prevent pregnancy, right? Because the only thing that will 100% work is abstinence. So I just wanted to put that out there, that even though these things generally don't work if you want to get pregnant, you may have gotten pregnant doing one or more of these things or having some of these things in your life. So these aren't foolproof things, but for the most part, they are things that you want to avoid doing if you want to get pregnant. Okay, so we're gonna start right out the bat with spermicide. Spermicide. Already this video is probably demonetized. What is spermicide? So spermicide is part of personal lubricants. I had no idea that most personal lubricants have spermicide in it, and that if you want to get pregnant, you want to avoid personal lubricants that have spermicide. Now, spermicide sounds like a really scary word, and for good reason. It is an ingredient, I believe, in personal lubricants that kills sperm or makes it really difficult for sperm to travel through your uterus, through the fallopian tubes to meet the egg. If you're trying to get pregnant, if you're using no personal lubricant and you're just using your own cervical mucus, oh my gosh, this conversation on the internet is so weird. If you're using your own cervical mucus and you've done a little bit of research, you'll know that your body produces different consistencies regarding cervical mucus or CM. When you start producing egg white CM or CM that looks and has a texture of egg whites, that is the ideal consistency for aiding in the transportation of sperm to your egg. Now, I had no idea that that was a thing until we started trying to have a baby, and I did some research on cervical mucus and the different phases of CM and CM to look out for if you want to track your fertility or you want to track your ovulation naturally without using ovulation strips or anything. I thought that was really fascinating, that our body creates our own sort of personal lubricant and that there's a phase of that occurs that is optimum for aiding in the transportation of sperm to your egg. Now, I didn't personally produce I didn't produce as much egg white CM as I wanted to, and I wanted a little bit of assistance in making sure that not my sperm, but making sure my husband's sperm got to the egg so that we could get pregnant. And so I will link down below the special lubricant that we used that was designed to emulate or designed to be exactly like egg white CM to really aid in the transportation. So if you are trying to get pregnant, I would definitely recommend this lubricant. And again, I will link it down below. I got it off Amazon, so it's nothing crazy. But yeah, I had no idea that using a personal lubricant that had spermicide in it could inadvertently be prohibiting or inhibiting your ability to get pregnant. And that's something to really keep in mind, because you could be perfect, you could be fertile, you could have, fertility could be fine, but if you're using a personal lubricant that is killing your partner's sperm and you're not aware of that, you could start to think that something is wrong with your ovulation, or maybe you could create a lot more issues than need to be. So definitely check whatever personal lubricant you're using. I know that there are some lubricants out there, all natural ones too, I think aren't the best in aiding the sperm to the egg. So definitely do a little bit of research on that. Again, I will link the lubricant that we used because it's specifically designed, and I think that they use it in fertility clinics as well. It's specifically designed to aid in the transportation and the safe transportation of the sperm to your egg. Okay, now let's talk about stress. I mentioned in my things to do if you want to get pregnant naturally video that you want to create a routine for yourself, a stress-free routine, or to introduce into your routine things that will help aid in the diminishment of stress in your life. And that's because stress can have a really negative impact on your body, obviously, and can sort of work against any efforts you're making to get pregnant. So you really want to avoid stress. And in that video, I mentioned meditation as a really good way of eliminating stress in your life. An exercise routine is a really great thing to introduce into your life. Just anything that you can do to eliminate stress. And I know it's hard, and this is coming from someone who stresses easily. I get anxiety really easily, especially when you've sort of made up your mind that like you really want to have a baby, you and your partner are so ready. It can automatically create stress because now all of a sudden there's this like end goal in mind. You've heard couples talk about how it can make having sex just like a stressful activity, not very enjoyable. And to a certain degree, if you're trying to have a baby and you're trying to like count out like what day you're ovulating and which day you're releasing an egg, like there is a certain element of stress that goes along with that, and a certain element of like demystification that occurs into like the whole sexual act and stuff. But trying to eliminate as much of that stress as possible, I think, is really beneficial. And that sort of leads me to the next thing not to do if you want to get pregnant, which is over obsessing about when you are ovulating. Now, it is smart to understand your body and your cycle. I had no idea about my cycle. I had no idea like when I was ovulating, what that really even meant before we started trying. And unfortunately, that just goes to show like how little we are educated about our own bodies. And I wish I had known more, because I think it would have just helped obviously like reduce my stress, but I didn't, and that's okay. And that's okay too if you feel a little bit unsure about like your own body and your own cycle. I would recommend, you know, starting to become familiar with your body and your cycle before you start trying, just to again eliminate any stress. And I used apps. I used Ovia and I used Clue, two really great fertility ovulation tracking apps. And I found that they were really helpful in teaching me and educating me about my own body. But at the same time, when we started trying to get pregnant and it wasn't happening, and granted, we only tried for 2 months. We got really lucky. We did not have any issues really at all. But because we didn't get pregnant the first try, and I'm super type A, I can get like really like obsessive over things. And I really like, I have a thing with control, right? Like I like to be in control of situations. And this is like the ultimate you have no control situation. And so I started over obsessing with the apps and over obsessing with like trying to document every little thing, and like what is my CM like today, or what's my temperature and how am I feeling, and that can start to create a stressful situation and a stressful environment and a not healthy like mental environment for you. And so I would say using the apps are great and really beneficial, very educational, but don't overwhelm yourself with information. Try to as much as you can live and let go, and understand that like when you're doing as much as you can, like that's when you kind of have to leave it up to either like the universe or leave it up to God, whatever you believe, as much as possible. And that leads me to the next point, which is try not to over obsess in the message board section of those apps. So you'll see in the apps, if you join them, that there's a message board section, which is really great. It's a great feature for connecting with and to other women who are in similar circumstances as you. And I did find it useful, like if I had a question, it was nice to kind of talk to other women, or during the 2-week wait period especially, it was a really fun time to kind of message on the message boards and in the app and stuff, and to kind of wait it out with other women who are also waiting it out can be hard, but it's nice to connect. However, if you start kind of over obsessing over every little thing, if you start over obsessing with what other people are saying, it can start to become unhealthy really quickly. And so I would say, if you want to get pregnant, use the message boards if you need to. If you want to connect with other people in similar situations as you, just don't over obsess over it. The last thing you want to avoid doing if you're trying to get pregnant is having sex during the wrong times. And this sort of goes hand in hand with understanding your own cycle, and it's a slippery slope, or like a tricky line to tread, because like I said, you don't want to over obsess about when you're ovulating and when you should be having sex, but at the same time, if you don't understand your cycle, you could be having sex on like days that you will absolutely not get pregnant, and that can be extremely discouraging. The amount of time that you have to fertilize the egg is something crazy, like only 12 to 24 hours. And if the sperm doesn't reach the egg in time, your egg will disintegrate. And so it can be kind of tricky and kind of overwhelming to find that specific time. And I don't know, for me, I was always taught like, oh, you have sex at any time, you'll get pregnant. And that's not necessarily the case. And so understanding your own body, understanding your cycle, I think is really beneficial in knowing when is a more optimal time to have sex to get pregnant. So you just want to make sure you're not having sex like right before your period, expecting to get pregnant and then being discouraged when you don't, because in that case, there's obviously like your egg is already disintegrated, your uterine lining is like this close to shedding, like that's just not going to happen. So just making sure that you are aware of your cycle and aware of like where you are in your cycle. That way you're having sex at more optimal times. And that's it, guys. Those are all the things not to do if you want to get pregnant. If you have any other things that you can think of or things to avoid doing if you want to get pregnant, definitely leave them down in the comments below, or if there's anything that you want to elaborate on, love that information as well. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, give this video a thumbs up, and I will talk to you all really soon. Bye, guys.